Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we can have a look at the latest from live radar, run through the weather warnings. We do have a wind warning issued for Scotland at the moment, but it's expiring around 6 p.m. We'll then have a look at the UKV as it is remaining very unsettled over the next 5 days. However, it is looking likely now it will be turning a lot colder towards the weekend and start of next week. We have been toying with the idea of a bit of a colder snap towards the end of the month, and all models now are in agreement on the timings and the severity of this colder spell. For southern areas, really only lasting perhaps 2 or 3 days, and the big risk will be the cold wind chill. Generally cooler temperatures, mid to maybe high single digits at the best of times, and quite harsh overnight frosts. Further northwards, there will be wintry showers around, so quite a few areas could see some falling snow, but we have to remember it is the end of March, so any settling snow really will only be over the highest ground. So have a look at that, and then we'll go along, have a look at what the end of the month and start of April has in store on the GFS, GM, ECMWF, and the ensembles. As like it is right now, it is going to continue to be pretty unsettled. Perhaps signs of some sort of higher pressure influence, but majority of models still have that low pressure around and continue to bring in cooler or colder spells, as we do see some amplification in the jet stream, because coming into April we're going to be seeing those intensities of any colder spells reduce significantly as the cold air over the North Pole does run out. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure to like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. So you start on the live radar, you can see the big weather front now out across Europe that spread through last night, giving most people heavy rain through the evening into the early hours of the morning. Now we're into a colder air mass now, but it's not ridiculously cold, generally slightly below average, and that's why we got a bit of snow over the highlands of Scotland, but again, nothing too crazy. Most areas it is dry at the moment, and with a fresher air mass, we've got a bit more sunshine around. It is blustery out there, and that is starting to bring in some heavier showers. Now you can see some of these heavy, bulky showers moving in, especially through Scotland, but will become more widespread through western areas through the rest of this afternoon and into the evening and overnight. We could see it band up a bit, and we could see some really quite heavy rain in places through eastern England as it does progress in. Again, we'll have a look at the UKV for that in a minute. It does show quite a narrow but intense band moving through in the evening and clearing overnight as these blustery showers continue to come in. So at the moment we do have drier and sunnier weather for many areas. It is a bit blustery out there, but I must take it with a pinch of salt, as it is not going to be lasting all too long. Now, if you look at the temperatures as of around 12:30, again, it's a pretty pleasant day in the sunshine in the east, across the East Midlands, in East Anglia. Wouldn't be surprised to maybe see 16 or 17 degrees. Generally quite a pleasant feel, even though those upper air temperatures are generally cool, because we've got sunshine around and the air's not coming from a particularly cold direction. It does allow the surface temperatures to climb. Of course, whenever the wind does get up, it will bring a little bit of a chill to the air, but most areas in the east at the moment are pretty decent. Again, highlands of Scotland a bit colder, with that cold air digging in, and eventually cold air that you can see still up towards Greenland and Iceland will be moving in into the weekend to give us all well below average once again. Now, if you go over to the weather warnings, we do have this wind warning issued from 4 a.m. this morning and expires at 6 p.m. It was only really issued after I recorded the video yesterday, so unfortunately I couldn't include it yesterday, but a spell of very strong winds may cause some disruption to travel. Again, high likelihood, lower end of the impact, 50 to 60 miles per hour, widely 65 in exposed coasts, and maybe 75 in the far north of Scotland. Nothing too ridiculous, but of course warranted of a yellow warning. Now, if you do look at the UKV and have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, now you can see that rain that spread through earlier this morning did linger around the southeast a little bit into rush hour, but most areas are now pleasantly dry. However, look out to the west through this evening, those showers do gather and they do increase in intensity and band together. So around 8 and 9 p.m, we're looking at quite a distinct band of precipitation moving in, giving some quite heavy rain around that sort of 6 p.m. to midnight period through England, Wales and Scotland before it does clear out into the North Sea. Then into tomorrow, another quite showery feeling day. Again, difficult to pinpoint exactly where those showers will develop, but where they do develop, it will be quite intense and they could band up again into lines. Through the rest of Thursday, though, it will be pleasant wherever we do avoid those heavy, blustery and even potentially thundery showers. Then down into the southeast, we do have quite an intense area of low pressure moving in, a bit of a line convection developing there as it's got some cooler air wrapping in around it. Again, only really impacting the far southeast, but could be quite intense where that does occur. Beyond that, into Friday, again, low pressure just sat over top of it. You can see the spiral where it sits over Northern Ireland, just pushing areas of showers in. Again, giving a really quite horrible, blustery, showery feel out there. Again, it's probably better than a big wall of rain that we have seen a lot recently, as it will mean there will be opportunities for sunshine. But at the same time, it does create quite a big unpredictable nature of it, as it could 1 minute be sunny and feeling pretty warm, and then heavy shower moves in and it cools it down, goes really blustery, maybe even thundery. Now beyond that, into the weekend, you can see that low clears and cold air drifts in from the north. Showery day through Saturday, but look, more snow developing through Scotland. And as eventually this cold air drifts southwards, we could even see some colder air drifting into southern areas by Sunday, and a few snow showers eventually developing in the heavier of these showers. Again, it's not too intense of a northerly wind, so those showers aren't too big. Again, could be some snowfall, especially over higher ground, and some falling snow in places along the east coast, but it really will be the cold wind chill and the overnight temperatures which will be the biggest issue. And you can have a look at those upper air temperatures, not too bad through the end of the week, but then look at that plunging down to potentially -10 or sort of -8 to -10 quite widely. Really quite cold Arctic air mass. Again, see this sort of air mass in the winter would be hardly getting above freezing, but because it's end of March with sunshine around, it looks fairly clear, crisp days. There will be probably temperatures into the mid to maybe high single digits. Now, if you look at those 2 meter temperatures, you can see at the moment temperatures today peaking perhaps around that 14-15 degree mark in that eastern portion, where of course we've seen the most sunshine. Overnight tonight, temperatures not too cold, but maybe mid-single digits in a few spots, and into tomorrow afternoon, once again, 14 or 15 degrees in areas where we avoid the showers and cloud. Elsewhere, maybe around 10-degree point. As we head into Friday, overnight temperatures once again not too cold, maybe mid-single digits in the cooler spots. And by Friday afternoon, maybe 10 to 14 degrees quite widely, or cooler than that in the north and the west. But of course, that colder air is drifting from the north, and by Saturday, Scotland is starting to cool down. Areas further southwards starting to turn a little bit chillier, but really only average at this point 10 to 12 degrees. Look what happens by Sunday. That cold air spreads in for all areas, struggling around that 6 to 8 degree mark for many, and even colder than that further northwards. And then overnight into Monday, look at that harsh frost quite widely. Some areas down to -3 to -5 degrees. Really quite cold frost for the end of March. And this will continue for at least another day or two in the south, maybe even longer further northwards, perhaps all the way to sort of the middle part of the week, as eventually westerly winds do prevail. Now, if you look at the GFS and see what it's showing over the course of the next couple of weeks, now you can see the westerly flow at the moment with big low pressure over the top of us, but as it clears, we see that northerly wind come in for Sunday. Cold air drifting in under higher pressure for around Monday, Tuesday time, for eventually a westerly flow rise for around Wednesday, at least in the south, and for all areas by sort of the end of the week. Now, if you look at the potential equivalent temperature, which really shows this air mass really quite well, you can see the potent northerly wind pushing in there, really clearing southern areas by around Tuesday evening, northern areas probably by Wednesday evening. So a good sort of 2, 3, maybe 4-day colder spell in the north. Again, nothing too ridiculous, but pretty crisp out there. The one probably good thing with this is it probably will be reasonably dry, it will be cold, probably be quite sunny as well with a dry Arctic air mass. So if you don't mind dealing with temperatures around that sort of 7 or 8 degree mark instead of 15 degrees like we have now, then it's going to be pretty sunny and pretty nice out there, feeling cold. So yeah, it could be a little bit different. Again, not getting the best of both worlds at the moment. We've either got mild, wet and windy sort of weather, or we've got cold but sunny and pleasant sort of conditions. So we'll just have to see how it does play out next week. Again, if you look at the raw upper air temperatures, you can see the -5 line moves in, potentially even the -10 line for northern areas. As we head beyond that in towards the end of the month, you see more of a westerly flow returns. Still could be cooler weather at times where those lows pull away into Europe. We could see northerly winds. but you can see right towards the end of the run, perhaps signs of high pressure building in, but this doesn't have a lot of support from ensembles or other operational runs, so I wouldn't put too much weight in it at this stage. The big thing I would say is it does look likely after that colder spell towards the weekend and start of next week, it will be going westerly once again, so pretty similar conditions to what we have now. Now, if we do have a look at the GEM run, again, a westerly flow at the moment, that pulls away into Europe, northerly wind pulls in, it does go cold all the way into sort of Monday, Tuesday time. It does break it down a little bit faster with milder air pushing in by as soon as sort of early hours of Tuesday, and all areas back in the milder air by Thursday. Again, into the longer range, it does go mild, wet and windy with a big westerly flow, but once again a bit of ridging at the Atlantic, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw another cooler northerly wind appear here for the first few days of April as well. Again, nothing too crazy, but could be quite potent with the frosts developing there. So still wet and windy, mild generally, but there could still be colder spells into the early part of April, still with amplification of the jet stream, probably still lingering blocking from the southern stratospheric warming all the way back into February. Now, if you do have a look at the ECMWF, see what that shows. You can see a westerly wind pushing in at the moment, northerly wind prevailing towards Sunday into the early part of next week, holding on for quite a number of days there, all the way to Tuesday evening for westerly flow, pushes back in. And again, very similar to the other runs, with still some blocking to our north, but generally westerly flow with lower pressure, meaning unsettled, probably quite showery regime. Again, we have a look at those upper air temperatures. You can see that cold northerly wind pushing in the -5 to -10 isotherm for eventually getting pushed away, as I said, by around Tuesday evening, overnight to Wednesday. So we could still see a frost into Wednesday morning. So it's looking likely Monday morning, Tuesday morning, and perhaps Wednesday morning, all seeing widespread frosts, and they will be pretty harsh in places before eventually westerly flow does move back in. So only really 3 or 4 day cool or colder spell for those westerly winds push back in. Now, if you look at the ensembles, you can see this really well shown here. If we just quickly refresh this. Again, average at the moment, before we do plunge, a good 5 to 10 degrees below average come Sunday. Does last a few days to around Wednesday time before we do move to average, or well above average once again for the last couple of days of April. And then we've got big uncertainty into the early part of April. We've got some runs going very cold, some even get out to the -10 level again in London, others milder. So big uncertainty into the first week of April, but the common theme still is for quite a showery theme with areas of heavier precipitation and constant walls of rain expected as well. So the unsettled theme to continue. You can see where that cold spell does coincide. We do see a little bit of a dip in shower activity, but there probably will still be some showers around, especially in northern areas and coastal areas. Again, the big shock you can see with the is with the dew points. That cold spell down to -5 dew points before rising up to 10 degrees by early April. So yeah, big drop, and that cooler and drier air mass shown by those low dew points is going to be why it will probably be quite sunny. Again, the 2 meter temperatures you can see early next week, perhaps plunging as low as sort of 8 degrees in the day by Sunday, similar into Monday, 7-8 degrees, and of course Tuesday 7 or 8 degrees before Wednesday afternoon, looking likely perhaps to get back into the double digits. And of course, with those daytime temperatures, they don't sound too exceptionally cold, but of course when you add on the wind chill with that, it will probably feel more like sort of 4 or 5 degrees or lower in places. And of course, overnight temperatures, there will be plenty of frosts around. If you do compare it to Glasgow as well, you can see probably only sort of 3 or 4 degrees in the actual temperatures towards next week, and the feel-like temperature maybe is below freezing, and the dew point's really cold there, down to -5 as well. And you can see it does last slightly longer, the cold spell there, maybe 4 or 5 days here. Now, if you finish by just looking at the ECMWF ensembles, very, very similar. Cold spell early next week, going back above average once again, before trending just generally average again, but with a lot of deviation either side. And of course, the same theme of quite an unsettled outlook for the foreseeable future. So it's looking very interesting over the course of the next few weeks. Very unsettled. Does continue. We will see a cold spell into the weekend and start of next week, and that probably will bring some more settled, drier, sunnier weather consistently there. But of course, we'll have a cold wind chill, and we'll probably have some really quite harsh overnight frost. So do make sure you be aware of that, especially if you're a gardener, if you've got any delicate plants out at the moment. Make sure they stay safe, of course. But hopefully, over the coming weeks, keep saying this, we will see something drier and warmer. Perhaps hints on the GFS of something more high pressure dominated, but we will just have to see what happens. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.